In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course. We must increase productivity. That means making it possible for industry to modernize and make use of the technology which we ourselves invented. That means putting Americans back to work, and that means, above all, bringing government spending back within government revenues, which is the only way, together with increased productivity, that we can reduce and, yes, eliminate inflation.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Hello, and welcome to Inform America. I'm your host, Rich Merritt. Today is February 19, 2020. And before we get started with the show, I'd like to ask people to check out the Boston Broadside newspaper. The papers that we have in the New England area, as far as I'm concerned, have all lied to us and not been truthful with the people. I'd like to see a paper who is struggling and trying to tell the truth to the people get ahead and replace those who have been deceiving us. Check out the Boston Broadside. Secondly, go to the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance.org. I believe they're trying to do wonderfully. They're trying to restore the rule of law in America, which is the court of record, the common law land jurisdiction courts, which the court system today, the BAR, is trying to hide from us. It's a very worthwhile organization, and the only way they're going to succeed is with the help of the people. So check out nationallibertyalliance.org, please. They're actually looking for a state coordinator, so if you want to get involved with that, I'll work with you until you're up and running or whatever, but check them out. Thirdly, I'd like to ask people to check out my book, Stand Your Ground. I think it's a very appropriate name for these times, although I didn't give it the name. It's a book based on how the Mass Correction Officers Federated Union got started. And it got started because I was the spark that ignited it. I didn't do it alone, but I was the spark that ignited it. You can get the book on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle Books. There'll be a link put up or a flyer put up with a link on it. If you click on that link and you happen to be somebody that I worked with in the past and would like an autograph copy, I'd be happy to sign it for you. That's the only way that I can do it until supplies last, though, is if you go through that link. If you go through Amazon, they do everything on their own, so I can't help you with that. The title of today's show is Who Runs America? And I'd like to ask you for your indulgence. Give me 5 or 10 minutes, and if you think it's interesting enough, stay the rest of the way. But I'm hoping that I can show you the transition that has taken place over the past 244 years, and I'll try to do it quickly. By the way, this is a low-budget show, so it's just a piece of paper I cut into a triangle. But basically, when 1775, we were under King George of England. Okay, the king is at the top of the pyramid. He's the sovereign, okay, the ruler, the king, the supreme person, however you want to put it. It's the king. Underneath, he had his government. You know, depending upon when it was, it's the Knights of the Round Table, the sheriffs, whoever it was at the time that you're looking at. Anyway, it's his government. And at the bottom is the people. The serfs and turfs, okay? That's all we were, is just, banter for these people. We till the fields and grow food for them and do other things, and he taxed the hell out of us, and that was about it. When the Founding Fathers came along in 1776 and says, okay, we're going to throw these people off, and we wrote the Declaration of Independence, and we basically said, hey, to the king, see you later. Okay, this is what they did. They inverted the pyramid. And they put the people on top. The people then became the sovereign in the United States of America, or more specifically in the 13 original colonies, because that's all that was established at the time. But the people became the sovereign. Next would have been county government, which I didn't include here, but state government is next. And then the federal government's down here. Because the federal government, if you look at Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, it's defined in limited powers. There's only 18 things they can do. That's it, 18. And I can't name them all for you, but it's create a form of naturalization for people coming into the country to get naturalized as a citizen. Roads, post office, weights and measures, coin money, which they gave away, by the way, to a Federal Reserve Bank. And they don't have the authority to do that. But all of this we're going to get into. What has happened over the past 244 years, and it's been very stealthily, if that's the correct word, stealthily done. It wasn't done over 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. It was done over 200 years. What they have done is they've turned it back this way, and we're back on the bottom. Okay? Now, not according to the law, the Constitution, but according to them. Instead of the king, it's the government now. Or maybe you can put a C in there for corporation, because that's what it is. But we're back on the bottom. And we're back on the bottom because of our ignorance. We don't know the Constitution. We don't know what it says. And if you don't know what it says, how do you know where you fit into the picture? Where are you? What I just showed you is where you are, here at the top, people. Only we've given that up. We've surrendered it to the international banking community. That's who run the world. And they're trying very, very hard to dominate the world, cut back on the population of the world, cut back on everything so they can have it all. And since they control everything and they do it with our consent, then obviously they're saying, well, you don't mind. If we're going to remain ignorant, that's what's going to happen to us. Now, I spoke about Article 1, Section 8 in the United States Constitution, which I don't have. It's lengthy, and I didn't want to go through it. You can check it out online if you'd like. But it's defined in limited powers that the states granted to the federal government. And I can tell you how that whole thing started. And an example is New Hampshire. A good example is New Hampshire. In 1783, October 31st, the people of New Hampshire ratified the state constitution, this document. They ratified it. Once they ratified it, making this the law of the land, they became the sovereign in 1783. It went into effect June 2nd, 1784. The people did that. This is their law. Now, in order for anybody to change the New Hampshire state constitution, they have to go through the process of amending it. That amendment process is outlined in Article 100. There's two ways to do it. A constitutional convention or a referendum, which is basically what is it you want to change. They put it in the form of not a question, the way they want it framed. They submit it to the people and mail it to your house today, and you vote on it. You, the people, change the law. Now, here's what you got to ask yourself. That Article 100 is still in effect today. Okay? The New Hampshire State Constitution was never changed. It's hidden from you. And because of your ignorance and my ignorance, they're playing a game with us. But if you understand that Article 100 is the way to amend the Constitution, period. The people do it. Only the people. You can read it for yourself. And I want to say this, and then I'll put up, well, I'll say this. The Article 7, which I don't have to put up for you, it basically says the people of this state, this is Article 7 in the Bill of Rights, the people of this state have the sole and exclusive right. Who are they talking about? The people of this state. Have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state. The independent, the sovereign, and the free state get that from the people because the people of the state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves. If you want to run for office, there's no king. The king doesn't appoint anybody. You run. That's self-governing, self-government. All right? That's how it works in the state of New Hampshire. Now, I'm going to put up Article 5, Part 2 of the New Hampshire Constitution, and I'd like to explain a little bit about that. If people think that the legislature in the state of New Hampshire makes laws, well, they do, but not for you and me, not for the sovereign class of people in the state of New Hampshire. How would it be to elect representatives and then say, rule over us? There are public servants. Now, they have the same rights as we do. They don't lose their rights because they're a public servant. But their job is to legislate the behavior of the government, period. Article 5, which basically says they have the unbridled right, that I threw that word in there, unbridled, but they have the right to make orders, laws, statutes, ordinances, directions, and instructions for the welfare and benefit of the state. The state isn't people. It doesn't say people. In Article 7 under the Bill of Rights, it said the people of this state. They were very specific. The state is a frame of reference. The people of the state. They're talking about the people. Now it's saying the state, the government. They have the right to do that. Regulate the behavior. So when they say, all right, we're going to say 55 miles an hour is the speed limit on the highway, that's because we, the people, pay for the cars that our state employees drive, whether it's state police, city police, whatever, Department of Transportation. It doesn't matter who it is. If it's a state or a municipal car, it belongs to the people. We bought it with our tax dollars. And we say, okay, you want to pass a law about seatbelts? That's for government workers. We want you to be safe on the highways. Buckle up. Drive 55. We don't want you to get hurt. Also, you want to have insurance so that you're not stuck in a battle over this? Get insurance. We pay for the insurance. It's all done that way, and it's also done for your protection. But it isn't us. The system has been skewed, and that's why they've turned it back over so it's this way, okay? And we're on the bottom. They've turned it back over because of our ignorance. We don't know the Constitution. Now, that was in 1784 when this New Hampshire Constitution took effect. 1789, the states ratified the United States Constitution, the federal Constitution. And if we can have the Supremacy Clause up, please. The Supremacy Clause says it's the law of the land, okay? And it also goes on to say that this shall not be contrary, or any laws of the states that are contrary, it's notwithstanding. Notwithstanding in law, it means nothing. It has no bearing whatsoever. My whole point is this. The Bill of Rights in the federal Constitution applies to all the states. They did that because when the 13 original colonies created the situation back in 1789, things changed as these different states came on board. So they wanted to make sure there was consistency across the states, not it's all sporadic. So the Bill of Rights, Article 1 through 10 in the United States Constitution, applies to everybody in every state. Now, I wanted to show you, and it also says in the Supremacy Clause that judges in every state are bound thereby. You tell me if judges are making decisions based on that. Because I know people in jail, and I know people who have lost their homes because of decisions that judges made that are inappropriate. And I'll just say this too. If a judge rules over you, are you free man? We're supposed to be under the jury system. You're tried by a jury of your peers, and we accept that. So if the jury says it, because the only people above us on planet Earth are our Creator, and our Creator doesn't hear court cases, so we agree that our peers will hear those court cases. Anyway, you can decide for yourself, and that's what this whole show is about. You read the Constitution, you understand it, and you decide, because this doesn't belong to lawyers and judges. This belongs to the people. It doesn't say anywhere that, it doesn't mention lawyers and attorneys in there at all, perfectly honest with you. It just doesn't mention it at all. Anyway, they adopted the Constitution, which is only seven articles, in 1789. In 1791, they came along and did the Bill of Rights, which applies to all of us. Now, if we can have up Article 2, the Second Amendment, excuse me. This Second Amendment is, I picked this one because it's easy. There's not a lot of writing, and I have to go through the whole explanation. It basically says in the Second Amendment, United States Constitution, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, comma. That's just one comment, and it's obvious. If you don't have a militia, you don't have a free state. You ask yourself if we have a free state. Then it goes on to say, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The reason it says it like that is because the states gave the Constitution to the federal government. The federal government had nothing to do with the federal Constitution. Absolutely nothing. It's not their job to interpret it like the Supreme Court does. They took it upon themselves in 1803, Marbury versus Madison. They have no right doing that. But no one's objected to it in the last 200 and something years. So they've been doing it ever since. My point is simply this. If the federal government is not privy to the Constitution, what the hell are they doing interpreting it? The judges in every court, like it said in the Supremacy Clause, they're supposed to be ruling on the letter of the law, not interpreting the law. The interpretation of the law remains with the people in the jury system. If you think, and you're on a jury, a law is unjust, and you can do this to the judge or the lawyers because it's up to you to determine. If it's unjust, the law is unjust, then you vote the thing down and set that person free. Don't do what they tell you to do. You are supposed to know the law. You're supposed to do it. So going back to we'll start at 1776. I'm going way back, but we told the king where to go, and we put ourselves in the position of sovereignty. I'm the king of my castle, you're the king of yours. If I don't interfere with anybody breaking any laws, the government has no business with me whatsoever. No cop can stop me. No bureaucrat can do anything with me. I'm not breaking any laws. And I'm not talking about the statutes. And it says the word laws in Article 5. I get that. Okay, I get it. It says it in there. But it's referring to the laws for the state, the government. You have to have laws you have to follow, and who's going to do that? The legislature is going to set up those policies. That's why it says directions and instructions. They set those directions and instructions for you. Here's your marching orders. Here's what we want you to do. They have the authority to do that. What they don't have is the authority to say, for example, with the Second Amendment, sorry to drag it out, you can't use, I don't even know what half this stuff is. You can't use butt stocks or bum stocks or whatever the hell they're called. You can't use magazines. You can't do this. You can't do that. No, I can do anything I want to do. As long as I don't break the law, leave me alone. That's what the law says. And if the courts weren't corrupt, you could go to court and get justice. Where are the common law, land jurisdiction, courts of record in America? Who knows? The bar is hiding them from us. They put a maze in front of it so you can't get to them. Look up court of record in Black's Law Dictionary and find out what it means. Go back to Article 61 of the Magna Carta, find out how the common law grand jury got started. Better still, go to the nationallibertyalliance.org and take their courses, you and your children. You really want to find out about your country and about the history and about what's been done to you? Go back there. And I'm not telling anybody, accept what's in front of you. There's ways of checking it out. There's ways of checking it out. Now, I don't know if I've explained that. I certainly hope, because I tried as best I could to explain it. Article 5, which we don't have to put up right now, but Article 5 tells the legislature what they can do. They can make laws for the state. Don't go interpreting it. I did it, by the way. The first time I read that, I said, oh, for the state. Oh, I live in the state. No, that's not what they're saying. The legislature, we elect them to run the affairs of our government. We are supposed to be the one who are out there prospering in our jobs or our chosen profession, or being creative and inventing new things. That's not happening anymore. That's not happening. The government has taken over everything. And by the way, just add this. Corporations have taken over. The United States government's a corporation. The state of New Hampshire is a corporation. I can even show you, yes. The bottom one here is, I don't know if you can see this. I'll put it over here. But the bottom one, this is the New Hampshire Constitution, is the corporate seal. It's a corporate seal. It's a corporation. And the top one is the common law seal, only you don't see common law anymore. You don't see it. They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to know that the law doesn't exist and there is no justice. You might have gotten a break along the way. I don't know. I don't know the reason for it, but there is no justice in America. And if you think I'm wrong, LaVoy Finicum was murdered with his hands in the air. He got shot. And by the way, I'll get into that right now because that's worthy of talking about. Brandon, if we could have up the links, I believe there's 6 or 7 links that I asked to have put up. These links you can click on and check them out if you want. The first one is Aaron Russo's America, Freedom to Fascism. He did a documentary years ago about the tax situation in America. And I watched this thing. What I want you to do is this. If you're really concerned about finding out the truth, during this video, they'll mention several court cases, Supreme Court cases, going back to 1917 to 1923, I believe it was, or 1916 to 23, when the Supreme Court upheld and says, no, you were given no new taxing authority. That's what they told the government. You weren't given any taxing authority, so you can't tax the people. There wasn't an income tax before then. There can't be one afterwards because the Supreme Court ruled against it. They said, no, it's the only way you can tax the people with a direct tax is if it's apportioned, and that has to be done through the individual states by population, so everybody's taxed accordingly. That's not being done. The tax is unlawful, but what do? The IRS will come down and kick your door in. The IRS, a corporation, will kick your door in and terrorize your family. The terrorist will terrorize your family. Watch that video. I'm telling you, if you really want to know what's going on and you really give a damn about your country, no one's going to save you. The people are going to do it. The second link I have is Ruby Ridge. Now, Ruby Ridge was about, and this is why one of the reasons I put up the Second Amendment earlier, Ruby Ridge is about Randy Weaver, who the ATF agent or an ATF agent approached him and said, okay, We want you to cut down a couple shotguns for us. Why they wanted him to do it, I'll never know. But he was living up in Idaho. He was living on a mountaintop. He bought the land. He was living off the land, off the grid. Government didn't like that. So they said he's a white supremacist. He's stockpiling weapons, all of that garbage. Which it is garbage, by the way. Unless you believe everything your government's telling you, then I feel sorry for you. Anyway, on a particular day, and I don't remember, it was back in 1992 or 1993. I think it was 92, but I'm not 100% sure of the date. Anyway, they heard a noise on their property, and they went, the next-door neighbor and the 14-year-old son went running down with the dog. The dog was barking. They thought that there was a moose or a bear or something, because they couldn't hear it, but the dog could. Anyway, when they got down the hill, people were down there, an argument ensued. And I don't know who fired what shot, but the ATF ended up killing the boy and killing the dog, and an ATF agent was shot by the boy. At least that's what the reports were. The father ran back up to the house. He wasn't even there. He was on a different trail but when he heard the gunshots, he ran up to get it. Anyway, when they got into the door, his wife was killed. He was shot through the head. He was shot once, and the next-door neighbor was shot. All of this because a gun was sawed off less than 16 inches. Federal government got no authority to do that. The ATF doesn't exist in law. Now, don't take my word for it. You read the law and you decide. Okay? Waco, Texas, another thing. They were stockpiling weapons. There was 180 people living at the Branch Davidian compound, and they're saying the stockpile. What constitutes stockpiling stockpiling weapons? And where does it say in law how many constitutes stockpiling? Because it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Period. It doesn't matter what you feel, what you think. All right, no one wants to know your opinion. What is the law? But if they can convince you that we should put these people in jail, they'll do that. Now you got Jerry DeLemus is still sitting in jail after 4 years. Lavoy Finicum was shot dead with his hands in the air. All of these things have happened. And by the way, I'm not picking on the cops, but what I'm telling you is this. The cops got to understand the law too so they can stop doing what they're doing. They're acting as servants for organized crime. And I'm encouraging and employing people, please, pleading with you, read and understand the law. Forget what a lawyer tells you. Forget what I tell you. You read it. You understand it. With that, I'd like to ask you to share this because the people I want to get to are probably not you listening to this. It's someone else who I'm trying to wake up. So God bless you all. Thank you for watching, and please share.